David Stern speaks. And, unfortunately, he said much of nothing. But we'll react to what David Stern said. A couple of cornerstone third basemen, one current, one past, connect at spring training. And Team USA, Cowboy McLean for America tonight. USA versus Italy with Nolan McLean on the hill. You're watching Mets Daily. I'm Jake Brown. Hit that thumbs up in the video. Subscribe, please, if you're not already. And make sure you comment, as we'll read your comments at the end of the show. We'll read more comments tomorrow. We'll read comments all week. So keep on commenting and go follow me right now at Jake Brown Live. David Stearns was scheduled for a press conference at 3 p.m., which made me a little bit scared. Now, the first thought was, is he just announcing that Robert Stock is going to be out for the season? If that's the case, we already know. That's fine. But the other obvious thing was, is he going to update us on Lindor? And that's what he did. He said Lindor remains on track for opening day. They want to get him likely in Grapefruit League game action. They want to get him in action. But otherwise, he is likely on track to return. So there was not much of anything that David Stern said. He also talked about the team chemistry, which has obviously been a storyline from what happened last year. And, he said, he likes what he's seeing from camp. He likes what he's seeing from the guys. He also talked about roster spots. We know a couple of bullpen spots, bench spots, and right field is the big one. And he talked about Carson Bench. He said, I think Carson's having a nice camp. Bench a couple more hits yesterday, a couple RBIs yesterday, raising his average to 390. Carson Bench is looking like he's going to win that job, with the way he's playing. Now, he could have the next couple weeks could be really bad, and they don't. Or they could, start him in AAA and say, you know what, show us 2 weeks of AAA greatness, and then we'll call you up. I don't think the Mets are in any rush, but the way he's playing, he's working himself on this roster, and that's not a bad thing for the Mets. Stearns has said he worked really hard. I think we've had a really work-intensive camp across the field, and Carson has participated in that. So, you love what you're seeing. You love what you're hearing from camp on all accords. Now, March 10th, we still got 16 days, guys. 16 days until we'll see you all at Citi Field. Me and my dad, our 23rd straight home opener. Can't wait. Paul Skeens, Freddie Peralta, but still a ways away here. Mets, key thing, staying healthy. They've lost Robert Stock. That's fine. Stock wasn't going to make the team. But they've lost Lindor, but expect him still ready for that Thursday, March 26th game. Lindor's starting to ramp up a bit. That's a good sign, but we got to see him in some game action. But the key is staying healthy. But nothing incredibly of note from David Stearns that scared us too much, which is good. It's a new year. In the new year, we're starting new routines. And you wanted a bit of a reset. And for a good reset, that's why I decided to try Ultra pouches. They are completely nicotine-free, caffeine-free, packed with nootropics that are designed for mental clarity and enhanced focus. Same kick as a nicotine pouch without those side effects. Most pouches elevate cortisol, raise blood pressure, and keep your body in a constant stress state. Ultra pouches let you keep your pouches, but with a cleaner kick. One of my biggest New Year's goals, extra sleep, and that's where I noticed the difference first. Falling asleep is easier. Waking up, actually feeling rested. Those nicotine pouches, they'll spike your resting heart rate at night. That kills your body and brain's ability to recover. Another New Year's goal is better workouts and recovery. And, it's help with that. Other things can lower your testosterone. And, can literally shrink your balls. Start the new year with focus, discipline, and consistency. 90% of users saw significant improvements in their overall focus levels. It's trusted by top athletes, entrepreneurs, and engineers around the world. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. New customers can use code FANARCH to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com for 15% off with code FANARCH. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that Mets Daily sent you. Bo Bichette sent David Wright to Port St. Lucie. Great sign here from Bo Bichette reaching out to the former Mets captain for advice, for help. And I'm sure a lot of it was third base. I'm sure some of it was playing in New York, being a leader. But he said, hey David, can you come down here and help me out? David Wright said, I was excited and surprised when Bo reached out and asked if I was coming down and if I had a few minutes for him. So I'm not sure what direction that's going to go into, whether it's third base or about New York or whatever the question set is, but I'm excited to meet and spend some time with him. That's what you want to hear. That is what you want to hear as David Wright has arrived in Port St. Lucie to chat with Bichette. And, that's the guy you want to learn from. I hate to rip on someone like Pete like I have in the past, but, you don't go to Pete Alonso when you want advice on playing a position in New York City. You just don't. You go to David Wright. That is the ultimate leader, the ultimate captain, beloved by all of his teammates, genuinely a great person, that teammates all love. Universally loved was David Wright. Can't say that about some other former Mets. But David Wright, universally loved. What I've heard, I've talked to David Wright, genuinely a good guy. And Mendoza was very happy about it. The importance of having guys around like that. He was elite his position. The fact that he's here, can share anything with Bo is going to go a long way. This is awesome, guys. Like, this is what you want to see. You want to see David Wright, our captain, and Bo Bichette conversing, Bo learning, picking from the brain of an elite third baseman and whose career got taken away from us too soon. David Wright, you can arguably say that he's still playing this year if he never had any of those back issues. David Wright might still be the third baseman if he never had injuries. Because think about it. With David Wright, I was at his last game. When did he retire? Was it 2019? David Wright's last game was 2018, September 29th, 2018. That would have made him 36. Okay, he would not still have been playing, but if he had no back issues, you can argue like he would have just retired in the last year or two and Bo Bichette would be taking his spot. Because there are infielders who get into their 40s. But obviously injuries got the best of him. But this is a good sign. Learn from David, a 7-time All-Star. That's the guy you want to know from. Great sign from Bo Bichette. Great sign tonight. Nolan McLean taking the hill for Team USA versus Italy. Now, Italy and Team USA fighting here because, listen, these WBC standings are very close. Both these teams enter tonight's game in the same pool. Italy's 2-0, USA 3-0. USA advances with a win. They'll be 4-0. Japan has advanced. Remember, 8 teams advanced. Venezuela, Dominican Republic out of the Miami Pool D. Pool C, Japan and Korea have advanced. That is set. Puerto Rico and potentially Cuba or Canada will advance as they're still fighting out in Pool A. And the Houston region, USA, Italy, Mexico is still in it. So big game tonight for both the USA and Italy playing each other. And Nolan McLean, I mean, our guy could send the United States on to the quarterfinal. And that's what you want to see. Because this pool ends tomorrow. Friday will be the quarterfinal in Miami and Houston. Can't wait. Can't wait. That's when I'll really be locked in the quarterfinal. Because the only storyline, well, we've had plenty of storylines, but how about yesterday's storyline? Randy Arozarena trying to, give a pound to the big dumper behind home plate, and he said, nah. And then he went off on him in the postgame. Now, hopefully that gets clear because they got to, hang out again in spring training, but that's not good. And, guys, it's things like that. When we talk about locker rooms and clubhouses, there's a big difference. There's a cultural difference. There's a massive difference. So when everyone wants to think like it's not a big deal if guys don't get along and stuff, that was an example last night of when certain barriers are crossed and something like that happens, that it can cause chaos behind the scenes. And the Mets had chaos behind the scenes last year. So this relates to the Mets with Noel McLean obviously starting tonight, but also last night with a situation like that. When you have, a player from one country and a player from another country and a crossover that didn't go so well, I don't know if that's going to get boiled over that quickly. We'll see. Now, it's the heat of competition, whatever. Cal Raleigh should have just dapped him. That was insane. Your teammates, bro. Like, that was crazy to me. But that's the kind of stuff you got to keep an eye on for. Cultural differences in clubhouses, it's a thing. I think it was a thing with the Mets last year. So you hope that's fixed. But that was an example last night of what happens in clubhouses where things can go awry. When you say do one bad thing, there's bad blood, and then you're with this guy in the clubhouse 6 months, 7 months. Like, that's probably stuff that happened with the Mets. There was one or two instances with a couple of guys, and it never boiled over. And when the team started losing, they really started losing, and they didn't care for each other. So hopefully that is all worked out. Go USA tonight. Let's go. Lightning McLean on stage, center stage for all of America, for all the world to watch, to try and advance the USA to the quarterfinal. Awesome moment for him. Awesome moment for McLean going into his real rookie season, as he's still eligible for Rookie of the Year. He's a Rookie of the Year favorite. Gets a chance to show the world just how good he is, because I don't think enough people know how good Noel McLean is. And we hope they learn tonight. Let's hope he's good to go. The vertigo's all good. He's feeling better. And, knock on wood, he stays healthy. Everything's fine. He comes out of this game fine and advances the USA. Because, listen, Noel McLean, if they move on, he's going to be a big factor in either the semifinal or the final. There's a chance Noel McLean is pitching the final as well, if the USA gets there. Versus potentially the Dominican Republic, who is a powerhouse. All right, let's read a couple of your questions from yesterday's show from Al Borelli. Jake, Carson is the future. Yeah, I mean, listen, he looks like it. You don't want to rush him, but, man, if he keeps raking like he has been, you can't leave him off this roster. As much as I said you should just start Tauchman there. You could also have Tauchman be your DH. And I know Brett Beatty's in the fold as well, but you could also think about Tauchman as a DH if you like Ben so much in the outfield. That is an option. Beatty doesn't have to be the everyday DH, because remember, Beatty's also their super utility guy if anyone goes down. So, that's going to be worth monitoring, is can Tauchman get some time at DH? Because I want to, we'll continue to talk about this. Maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. Mark Vientos, both for Team Nicaragua and for the Mets, has not hit. I think he's 1 for 23. He has not hit in spring training. And listen, I don't look too much into spring training stats, but for when it's for guys like that are trying to fight their way on a roster, I don't think Mark Vientos should make the Mets roster. If the season started today, Mark Vientos should not be on the Mets roster. And I know that sounds crazy, and you're thinking, how? Like, do you leave Vientos off the roster? What has he done to earn a spot? He's not hitting, he doesn't feel it, and he doesn't run. I mean, I don't know, guys. It's going to be fascinating to see. Do we just put Vientos on the roster because you assume and he has no options without having truly earned the spot? That's going to be very interesting to watch. Like, your thought is that Beatty, Vientos are the platoon DH, maybe with a mix of Tauchman. But I don't know. The Mets need that right-handed bat. But if he ain't hitting, how are you going to play him? That's going to be fascinating. Let me know in the comments below. Should Mark Vientos be in the opening day roster? Jam Valentine says spring training in Florida is a different beast than playing at Citi Field for both Carson and Freddie. I wish them both the best, but don't see an extension on the horizon until we see regular season results, which is the best route for a pitcher. Yeah, JM, I would agree. I just don't think the Mets should extend the guy for 8 years before he has touched the mound in New York. Like, there is a certain level of pressure. We've seen guys fold under it. I'd like to see some Peralta and Queens before I just give him $200 million. I know it's not our money, but still. Shakamoto said, thanks for another great show, Jake. Want to shout out Ernest Duff for killing it with his coverage lately. If you can get him on and talking about Bench, Clifford, Reimer, and company, that'd be another bang of a show. Lots more to work with. Now that spring training has progressed, would love to see you guys link up again soon. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Love having Ernest on. So, guys, the weeks I do the sponsor reads, which is this week with Ultra, it's hard for me to do a guest because after the first topic, we have to do the read. So, unfortunately, sponsor weeks, we probably can't. But maybe Ernest we're going to have on next week. That's a good idea, Shakamoto. I love having him on. He has great insight. A lot of good prospect stuff has been happening. So, good point. Brian Reese said, dude, I'm sure you saw David Wright's interview on SNY. I mean, how great is it to have him in the organization? He's my all-time favorite Met. Can a person be any more humble and pleasant? 100%. 100%. I got to chat with him. I responded to that with 2020. Now, I don't think I might have met him in person once, but we haven't had a conversation in person. But I got to speak with him over the phone, and it was one of the better moments of my career, getting a chat with David Wright. And he is genuinely a humble, great guy. And like I said, that's the guy you want to learn from. That is awesome to hear him at Mets camp. Awesome to hear him tutelage of Bichette. And it's awesome for you guys for continuing to watch Mets Daily. And we'll catch you tomorrow.